Hello, this is Sara Basloe, wanting to talk to you tonight about 3 ways to overcome fear for solopreneurs and entrepreneurs. As I said, Sara Basloe, we help entrepreneurs at their heart, to find business that is fit for them. So I want to talk to you about 3 steps of overcoming fear, and when it shows up in your life. And the first step is actually identifying what the fear comes from. Is it a belief? Is it unconscious, subconscious? Is it a rule that you have, whether it's conscious or unconscious? Rules are really interesting. We can talk about that another time, but if you want more information, just private message me about rules, life rules. Then the other is, or does that come from your gut? Is your fear from your gut? Is it from the past? Is it from the future? Or is it from the present? So I wanted to identify the 3 steps. And the first one, as I said, is identifying where the fear comes from. So the second one is identifying the opposite experience or outcome. If you actually took something on that you were afraid of, but did it without fear, like just pretending that fear did not exist, okay? And so that's step number 2. So step number 3 is actually identifying a time in your life, in the past, when you experienced this opposite scenario, like in step number 2. And you could feel the difference. You could feel that you could notice in that experience in the past what it felt like. And I'd like you to notice what you focused on and what you believed. So you might want to take a moment now and actually write down a fear that you had, a time where you had a fear, and then where it came from. This will take you a couple seconds. And then identify the opposite of that experience. What would happen if that fear wasn't there? What action would you have taken? What steps would you have taken? And then identify a time in your past when you did take those steps. So I'm talking in vague terms. And before I just move forward, I just want to say hi to Glenn and to Kelly and to Lori and to Paul. Thank you for being here and listening. So I wanted to give you an example that I thought would be useful from my life, so you could see possibly what this felt like. So my first step was identifying a fear that I had, and it was actually becoming a coach. I was in the midst of a life change, a transition, and I wanted to decide, well, what was I going to do? And someone had suggested considering being a life and business coach. And of course, I went into fear, and I thought, how could I possibly guide people in their success, on their journey to being successful as a coach? I had never done this professionally, and I had no evidence that I would be successful at it. So the fear was, where was it? It was in my head. Where was it? It was in the future. I was saying I would not be successful. And I had no evidence of that I would be a failure. So the second step, as an example, was I needed to focus on the opposite of that fear, that thing that stopped me in my tracks, that actually was my biggest obstacle. Like, how many times have you been afraid of something and not done it? A possibility has come to you. I like to call them filters. So an opportunity or something came to you, and your brain said, you can't do this, or this isn't right, or whatever. And you might not have even noticed that you did that. And so what you want to do is focus on the opposite. So what I did was I focused on the opposite. What would it be like if I did become a coach? And I said, well, it would be wonderful. It would really satisfy my need to help others. It would satisfy my need for creativity and seeing how other people work, how I could identify bigger pictures for them, different patterns. And so my focus became in the present, as though I was actually being a coach in that moment. And it felt great. And then step number 3 was identify a time in my life when I had an experience of somewhat like this. So I would have some maybe validation or something to compare it to. So in my past, I've been involved in a number of organizations, volunteering over the years, where I mentored other business people. I helped them brainstorm and best practices. I helped them pick strategies and solutions to problems they were just experiencing in the moment. Some of those places you may even relate to, some of those organizations like NAWBO, which is the National Association of Women Business Owners. I was in that organization in New York City, or BNI, Business Network International. They're all over the world. And I've talked about them in other videos. And so I did get an opportunity to interact with a lot of people from NAWBO and a lot of people who wanted some help, who, sometimes it's about not about getting caught in your own weeds and having someone else to bounce things off of. So it was great. Those were some organizations. And I worked at Macy's and Sherwin-Williams, where I was in leadership positions. And I was always working with people on how they could overcome their own obstacles. And it was really fun. I found it very rewarding. So as a result of these 3 steps, I stepped up and out to become a certified business and life coach. And I did it. I went back to school, and the rest is history. So what did you write down as what you were going through, what fear you were having? Number 1, what did you write that was your fear? And where have you stopped yourself? And use these 3 steps. So 1, identify the fear and where it comes from. Number 2 is identify the opposite experience. You pretend, that gives you a vision of what it could be. And then number 3 is identify a time in your life when you experienced that opposite outcome, when you had actually possibly had not even thought of the fear, but just took action. And notice what you focused on, notice what belief you had, and how you just undertook that experience. So for Fun Friday, I hope this is more fun for you. Private message me to receive your free book on how to own your own business. It's an ebook that I authored, and it'll give you some more ideas on how to successfully overcome your fear. So remember, private message me. I'd love to hear from you, and have an outstanding day and weekend. Thanks for listening. Bye.